Enfield, England. A seemingly ordinary suburb. Families live their lives, children play, days turn into nights, but in one house a darkness was lurking. This is the story of the Enfield Poltergeist, one of the most documented and debated hauntings of all time. It began subtly, small noises, objects out of place, but the disturbances grew stronger, more persistent. One August night, the true horror began. Furniture moved violently, seemingly with a life of its own. The children huddled together, terrified. Something evil had invaded their home. At first, it was easy to dismiss the strange occurrences, but Peggy, their mother, felt a growing unease. One evening, as Peggy sat in the living room, she distinctly heard a whisper. The whispers persisted, following the children, flitting from room to room. Janet, the youngest, seemed particularly affected. Her toys moved on their own. Peggy tried to comfort her children, but deep down, a cold fear was starting to grip her heart. The disturbances escalated from whispers to physical manifestations. Objects began to move on their own, not just in the night, but in broad daylight. The unseen hand was growing bolder, its actions no longer subtle or easily dismissed. The Hodgson family sought solace in their faith, but the entity seemed undeterred. It was as if it drew strength from their fear, feeding off their terror. The haunting was no longer a series of isolated incidents. It was a constant, oppressive presence. The children, once full of life and laughter, were now shadows of their former selves. They huddled together, terrified to be alone. The once familiar house had become a labyrinth of fear. Peggy, desperate to protect her children, tried to maintain a sense of normalcy. The neighbors, initially skeptical, could no longer ignore the strange noises and lights emanating from the house. The Enfield Poltergeist was making its presence known, not just to the terrified family, but to the world outside. The strange occurrences escalated with a terrifying swiftness. Furniture moved with impossible force, beds shook violently, objects flew across the room with terrifying speed. The Hodgson home had become a battleground. The children retreated further into themselves, their drawings now depicting monstrous figures. Peggy prayed for deliverance, but the entity remained, its grip tightening with each passing day. It was as if it had marked them, chosen them for its own twisted game. 11-year-old Janet became the entity's primary target. Witnesses described chilling scenes, Janet's small body levitating, her voice changing into a guttural rasp. The entity, speaking through Janet, claimed to be a man named Bill Wilkins. Janet became a prisoner in her own body, a puppet manipulated by a force beyond her control. Peggy consulted doctors, priests, anyone who might help, but no one had an explanation. They were alone, facing an enemy they couldn't see, couldn't fight, couldn't escape. The entity's voice, emanating from Janet, became a chilling soundtrack to the Hodgson family's nightmare. It taunted, threatened, and reveled in the terror it inflicted. The voices captured on tape recorders sent chills down the spines of all who heard them. Skeptics struggled to explain the phenomenon, but those who witnessed it knew something truly sinister was at work. Attempts to communicate with the entity proved futile. It delighted in their fear. The voices continued, a constant reminder that they were not alone. The Hodgson family found themselves under siege, trapped within the walls of their own home. News of the haunting spread, attracting a media frenzy that only intensified the family's ordeal. The police, initially skeptical, found themselves unable to ignore the mounting evidence. Reports of flying objects, disembodied voices, and a levitating child reached even the most hardened officers. The family became prisoners in their own home, afraid to venture outside. They were trapped in a nightmare with no end in sight. Two paranormal investigators, Maurice Grosse and Guy Lyon Playfair, felt compelled to investigate the case. Upon entering the Hodgson home, both men felt a palpable shift in the atmosphere. Grosse and Playfair, armed with cameras and tape recorders, prepared to confront the unknown. Grosse quickly established a rapport with the terrified children, particularly Janet. Playfair meticulously documented every detail, his mind racing to find a logical explanation. Their initial skepticism gave way to a growing sense of unease. Grosse and Playfair employed a variety of methods to capture evidence of the unseen forces at work. Tape recorders captured the chilling voices of the entity. Cameras clicked incessantly, hoping to capture a visual manifestation. Photographs revealed objects suspended in mid-air. The evidence painted a chilling picture of a home under siege by forces beyond human comprehension. Grosse and Playfair felt a growing determination to help the Hodgson family, particularly Janet, who seemed to be at the center of the haunting. The Enfield case, already attracting local attention, soon drew the interest of seasoned paranormal investigators. Maurice Grosse, a veteran of numerous investigations, arrived first. He saw the fear in the Hodgson family and knew this was not a case of simple mischief. Guy Lyon Playfair, a researcher and author, joined Grosse soon after. Playfair approached the case with a more skeptical eye. Together, Grosse and Playfair formed an unlikely but formidable duo, their contrasting approaches complementing each other. Cameras were strategically placed, their lenses aimed at capturing any movement, any anomaly that might reveal the unseen force at play. The investigators, armed with their tools and their unwavering resolve, were ready to confront the unknown. The Enfield Poltergeist, it seemed, was not about to give up its secrets easily. Grosse, with his compassionate nature, focused on gaining the trust of the Hodgson family, especially Janet. He spent hours talking to her, listening intently as she described the unseen force that seemed to possess her. He saw the toll the haunting was taking on her, stripping away her childhood. Grosse, despite his belief in the paranormal, was deeply troubled by what he witnessed. He was determined to help this family, to free them from the grip of whatever darkness had taken hold. Playfair, true to his analytical nature, remained skeptical. He meticulously documented every event, searching for a rational explanation. But the sheer volume of evidence and the palpable fear began to chip away at his skepticism. The audio recordings in particular were deeply unsettling. Janet's voice, transformed into a guttural rasp, sent chills down their spines. The entity, speaking through her, claimed to be a former resident of the house. Playfair, despite his reservations, could not deny the authenticity of the recordings. Something extraordinary was happening in the Enfield house, defying conventional explanation. Their contrasting approaches became their greatest strength, allowing them to approach the case with a balance of objectivity and empathy. Grosse, believing they were dealing with a sentient entity, attempted communication. He spoke directly to the darkness, asking questions, seeking answers, hoping to understand the motivation behind the haunting. He used a variety of techniques, from simple conversation to EVP or electronic voice phenomena recordings, hoping to capture the entity's responses. The house, it seemed, listened intently to his every word, the atmosphere growing thick with anticipation. Playfair, while initially skeptical of such methods, participated in seances and Ouija board sessions, meticulously documenting the results. The planchette moved with a life of its own, spelling out words, phrases, even threats that seemed to originate from beyond the realm of the living. The entity, it seemed, was eager to communicate, to make its presence known. Both investigators were keen on capturing photographic evidence. They set up cameras throughout the house, using high-speed film and infrared triggers to capture any movement, any anomaly that might reveal the unseen force at play. They photographed objects in mid-air, seemingly suspended by an invisible hand, and doors slamming shut with impossible force, the frames capturing a fleeting glimpse of the chaos that had become the Hodgson family's reality. Despite the unsettling nature of their work, Grosse and Playfair remained steadfast in their pursuit of the truth. They meticulously documented every event, every piece of evidence, hoping to shed light on the mystery of the Enfield Poltergeist. Their findings, though often met with skepticism from the outside world, painted a chilling picture of a family tormented by a force beyond human comprehension. The entity, as if aware of the investigators' presence, seemed to revel in the attention. Objects moved with increased frequency and violence, furniture scraping across the floor, toys flying through the air, seemingly guided by an unseen hand. The house, once a place of safety and comfort, had become a battleground, a stage for the entity's terrifying displays of power. Janet, the epicenter of the haunting, became increasingly distressed. Her voice changed more frequently, the guttural rasp of the entity, claiming to be Bill Wilkins, sending chills down the spines of all who heard it. She levitated more often, her small body suspended in mid-air, her limbs contorting at impossible angles, her eyes wide with fear. The entity, through Janet, communicated with the investigators, its messages a chilling mix of threats and taunts. Words appeared scrawled on the walls, seemingly etched into the plaster by an unseen hand. The investigators, despite their best efforts to maintain a professional distance, found themselves drawn into the emotional heart of the haunting. As the investigation progressed, the line between the natural and the supernatural blurred. The investigators, despite their skepticism and their belief, found themselves questioning everything they thought they knew, everything they thought was possible. The Enfield Poltergeist, it seemed, was not simply a haunting, it was a challenge, a test of their courage, their sanity, their very souls. The Enfield Poltergeist case divided the world. Some dismissed it as an elaborate hoax, pointing to inconsistencies in the evidence. They argued that the events were staged, the photographs manipulated. However, those who witnessed the events firsthand found it difficult to dismiss the haunting as a mere fabrication. The sheer volume of evidence, the photographs of objects moving inexplicably, all pointed to something truly unsettling occurring within the walls of 284 Green Street. To this day, the Enfield Poltergeist remains one of the most well-documented and hotly debated paranormal cases in history. Was it a hoax or something that defied rational explanation? The answer remains elusive, hidden within the walls of the now infamous Enfield house. The Enfield Poltergeist case left an undeniable mark on the Hodgson family. The children carried the scars of the haunting into adulthood. Janet struggled to come to terms with her experiences, the memories haunting her long after the last voice had fallen silent. The family eventually moved on, seeking normalcy. Investigators Grosse and Playfair continued their work in paranormal research, their experiences at Enfield shaping their views on reality. Grosse remained convinced they witnessed something extraordinary, while Playfair acknowledged a force beyond scientific comprehension. The Enfield Poltergeist case continues to fascinate and terrify, a testament to the power of belief and the mystery of the paranormal. The Enfield house holds the echoes of a haunting that captured the world's attention. The Enfield Poltergeist remains an enigma, a chilling tale whispered not only within the walls of 284 Green Street, but in the hushed tones of those captivated by the unknown. Was it a cruel hoax, a manifestation of childhood trauma, or a genuine encounter with a malevolent force from beyond our understanding? The answers remain elusive, shrouded in the same mystery that cloaked the Hodgson family in fear all those years ago. The events at Enfield serve as a stark reminder of the fragility of our reality, the thin veil that separates the mundane from the truly terrifying. The haunting left an indelible mark on all involved, the echoes of disembodied voices and the chilling sensation of unseen eyes still lingering in the memories of those who dared to enter that house. Even today, the Enfield case continues to fascinate and disturb, fueling our primal fear of the unseen forces that may lurk just beyond our perception. The Enfield Poltergeist, whether a mischievous spirit, a malevolent entity, or a figment of our collective imagination, has cemented its place in paranormal history. The story continues to be told and retold, each retelling breathing new life into the legend and reminding us that some questions have no answers, some doors are better left unopened, and some shadows are meant to remain unexplored. And so, the mystery of the Enfield Poltergeist endures, a haunting reminder that some stories never truly end. They simply fade into the darkness, waiting for the right moment to resurface and send shivers down our spines once more.